Alright, 7th graders, now that we've had a chance to go ahead and look at those items in the history of technology and see, why they were such important, um, you know, things that shaped the way mankind advanced since their inception, let's take a look back at the key technological advancements of the era 2 from our PowerPoint. So we're going to pick up metallurgy. Now, metallurgy is the art and science of producing metal goods, all the way from mining and extracting metal from mineral ores to the shaping of metal objects. So the first thing I want you to do is go ahead and hit pause in this video and go ahead and write that definition down in your notes in Adobe Acrobat. So go ahead and hit pause and do that. Great, guys, and just as a quick reminder, this is the page you should be on, slide 23, your initial thoughts. Again, that what is metallurgy? Go ahead and write that definition down so we have a record of that in our notes. Go ahead and type that right in there. All right, so we're going to get back to the PowerPoint here. Actually, we're going to stay right here in your notes. Sorry about that, guys. I'd like you just to think about these two questions first and go ahead and respond to those. So the first one, how do you think this technology, the technology of metallurgy, which definition you have written here now, how do you think this technology changed people's lives? And then the second thing is, how might it have led to other changes in technology? So always constantly thinking about, like we did in our presentations, about how one technology can lead to another. So go ahead and take a moment and pause the video and go ahead and write down your initial thoughts on those two question items. If it takes you, 3 to 4 minutes, that is perfect. So go ahead and pause now. Okay, now let's jump back to this PowerPoint slide on metallurgy. So we've got our definition there, and we've got two pictures. So the first thing I want you to focus in on this one here on the left, and think about what you think you see here. Obviously you have some sort of rocks. We see some color in the rocks, and if you figured out that you have rocks mixed with mineral ore or metal, you were right. And so here you have this combination of rock and ore. And then if you look up here to the right, what do you suppose is happening here? You have a couple of people there. You've got them, this man has some things in his hand. He's picking them up off here. Then you have this thing that they've created here with some rocks. It's got like kind of a dome and an opening, and you get something coming out of the top. If you thought smoke, maybe you're right. And if you think about what you have here, combine this with this, what you have here is a very primitive kiln, K-I-L-N. And what would happen is they would put the rocks into the kiln and they would melt out the metal. So the metal would come out of the rocks by heating them in this kiln. Okay, and so what I want you to do is think about the turn and talk here. You're not actually going to turn and talk just because we're doing this on video, but just think about these two questions. Maybe talk to yourself or do the metacognition that we've talked about in class. Think about what you're thinking. Why is it such a big deal that humans learn to make bronze? When we take the mineral ores out of here to create bronze? Why is that such a big deal? What are the things that come after that? And then additionally, why didn't foragers or people of Era 1 figure out how to make bronze? What were the things that didn't allow them to? So hopefully you figured out that people living in settled villages had more time to learn about and experiment with metal ores, which actually developed as people experimented with pottery. Remember that process of creating a civilization, getting a food surplus, you start firing pottery in a simple kiln. So they started to experiment with mineral ore and rocks. And this kind of specialization only, remember, happens when people stay in one place because they have opportunity to, because they have a food surplus. And then remember, farmers need metal tools for their job. A lot of the farming things, the things involving farming are going to be much easier with a metal tool. So farmers were able to think about and start to make those out of bronze. Whereas nomads didn't need them as much. They could have had them, certainly could have used them, but they didn't need them as much. They could herd their animals and raise them for their products using the same stone, bone, and wood tools they had been using for a really long time. So they really just didn't need bronze. All right, on to the next slide. So here we have some Bronze Age metal artifacts for us to look at. The first one on the left here, you have the Rileton gold cup from the early Bronze Age. You can see the years there from England, the English era. Next, you see in the upper right here a unique shallow bronze basin on 3 whales of the Eastern Zhou, Z-H-O-U is Zhou dynasty in China. And then down here on the bottom right, a gold dagger with lapis handle and sheath from the royal cemetery at Ur. Ur is one of the city-states of Mesopotamia, if you guys remember. And so I want you to stop and jot now in your notes, how are these artifacts evidence of specialization? What jobs and resources were needed to make them? So remember, think about specialization, which only happens, again, after you have get a lot of food, start to store it, so you have a surplus. Hopefully you got that. So once these civilizations had surpluses, they're able to start specialization. So how are these artifacts evidence of that? And again, what jobs and resources were needed to make them? So we're going to zip on over to your slide 24 notes, the stop and jot notes. How are these artifacts evidence of specialization? And what jobs and resources were needed to make them? So go ahead and take, 2 to 3 minutes on each question. Go ahead and fill in those. Think about, again, specialization, which only comes after you have a surplus, when people are start to able to do things other than things just involved in the production of food. They're able to start dividing up labor and specializing jobs. And again, what were those jobs? All right, so go ahead and take your time, hit pause, and go ahead and write. Okay, now that you've had a chance to do that first stop and jot, hopefully you started to talk about in terms of resources and jobs that were needed. Initially to start, you've got this, again, this mineral ore. Remember, you got the rocks here and you got the ore in them. You got to have someone that knows how to mine it. So you have to dig it out of the ground. You have to get the metal out of it, so that whole kilning process. You have to melt it down and then shape it. And so you obviously when you go from this initial product, raw material, to this finished product, you have quite a few jobs in between to do that. And then artistic. If we take a look at this bronze basin here on these wheels here, this is the artistic work going into this, or this dagger here is very, very unique, and there would be certain people that would specialize in that sort of skill, the design of that. All right, so now we're going to head over to your assignment that's going to go with us on the reading on the Bronze Age, the age of bronze in order to. And so let's zip on over back to Adobe Acrobat here to start our assignment. So here you guys are, student handout 3 in Adobe Acrobat, and you are to grab a partner, someone that you traditionally have worked with using, in my team Shake. So pick someone that you work well with, and you're going to go ahead and do this reading together. It's a good idea to go through, especially when you get to any of the bold words. Again, metacognition, thinking about your thinking, words you don't understand. Make sense of the paragraph before you keep moving on. As you go down, your job is to, again, metacognition, circle stuff, underline stuff, question mark stuff. The more you write on this, the more you highlight it, the better. And then as you get down here, I'm going to go ahead and just answer the questions in the box as you come up with them. And so as you can see here, we're going to, let's see, we might just stop here. Actually, had a little peek ahead here. Let's go on down to this Bronze Age transition here, where we're going to talk about the Bronze Age transitioning out of this Mesopotamian area through the use of this map. So go ahead and look at this Bronze Age transition map as well, and go ahead and answer this one here. So again, this box, and then this first box. So just a few things. And again, it's really important that as you read, you ask questions of each other, turn and talk, figure it out. What don't you understand? Look words up. Be metacognitive in your process. And then stop there once you're done, and the sub will go through the answers to those and just have a little discussion about what you guys came up with. All right, best of luck, guys, and we'll chat soon. Thanks.